Alright, Evanescia is one of those characters where at first glance she looks like a normal DPS, but the deeper you go, the more you realize she's basically a scaling engine that never stops feeding itself. So let's go through her kit properly, step by step. Starting with the basics, her basic attack is just standard single target damage. Nothing special here, it's mostly there to generate SP and doesn't really define her gameplay. Her skill is your main consistent action. It deals blast damage, so one main target and adjacent enemies, and it also gives 5 punchline. The multipliers are already pretty high, but the important part is that this is one of her main ways to keep feeding the Elation system. Now her ultimate is where things start to get interesting. It's an AoE hit, followed by multiple random bounce hits, and the number of those bounces actually scales depending on how many enemies are on the field. So in multi-target fights, this thing gets way more value. But on its own, the ultimate is not the full story. The real core of her kit is her talent, and this is where everything connects. First, she converts 25% of her crit damage into Elation, which already tells you how you're supposed to build her. Crit damage isn't just damage anymore, it directly feeds her scaling. Then comes the important part. Whenever she gains energy, she also gains certified banger, and whenever she gains certified banger, she gains energy back. So she creates this loop between energy and certified banger, constantly feeding into itself. There is a cap per instance, so it's not infinite in one tick, but over time this loop stacks very fast. And once she has certified banger, her entire kit gets enhanced. Her skill starts applying additional Elation damage on hit. Her ultimate also gains extra Elation damage, both on the AoE hit and the random bounce. So her damage isn't just raw multipliers anymore, it's layered with Elation scaling on top. Now here's where it gets even more important. When her energy reaches 240, something called Fox Teacher triggers automatically. This deals AoE Elation damage, restores some of her energy, and then resets the accumulated value. So essentially, she has a built-in nuke that triggers just by playing normally, because her kit is constantly generating energy anyway. And that's why she doesn't play like a burst DPS. She plays like a constant scaling unit that periodically explodes. She also has access to an Elation skill, which is just straight AoE Elation damage and gives more certified banger. It's simple, but it directly feeds her main loop. Now her passives take this even further. She gets a 30% crit rate boost, which is massive for consistency. Her ultimate gets more bounce hits depending on enemy count, which makes her scale extremely well in AoE scenarios. But the most important part is how she interacts with teammates. Whenever a teammate with a lower participation ID gains certified banger, she converts 50% of that into her own. And when teammates' certified banger expires, she again converts 50% of it. So she's not just generating her own resources, she's literally stealing and recycling her team's scaling into herself. This makes her insanely strong in full Elation teams, because everything happening around her feeds directly into her own damage. And it doesn't stop there. Her Fox Teacher attacks also apply vulnerability, increasing enemy damage taken, which means she's also indirectly buffing the entire team. So she's not purely selfish, even though most of the scaling ends up on her. If you look at her overall gameplay loop, it's actually very clear. You use skill and ultimate generate energy and certified banger loop them into each other trigger Fox Teacher gain more resources and repeat. Meanwhile, your team is also generating certified banger, which she partially absorbs, accelerating her scaling even more. So instead of a character that peaks and falls off, Evanescia just keeps ramping the longer the fight goes. And that's really the key difference. She's not about instant burst like some other units. She's about building momentum until the damage becomes overwhelming. Now realistically, there are two sides to this. On the good side, her scaling is insane, especially in proper Elation teams. She benefits from literally everything happening around her, and in longer fights she's going to look ridiculous. But on the downside, she's heavily dependent on that system. Without consistent energy gain and team interaction, she loses a big part of her power. So she's not plug and play. She's a team-dependent scaling carry. And that's why she pairs so well with characters like Silver Wolf SP. Because once you combine her constant scaling with a character that turns the entire team into a resource engine, you're basically creating a loop that just doesn't stop.